noticed. Like,
Did you give him this?
Oh, it's right there.
Oh, okay. You turn it
on.
off. Like, oh.
Yo.
Yeah, we're back with our good friend Enrique. We're really happy to have you today.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Thank you, boss. Yeah, we're so happy you've been watching the stuff online and we hear what you guys say, the feedback we're getting. It's really nice. And today we're looking forward to having a really good conversation with our friend here, Enrique. So, Enrique, please just introduce yourself. Like, who is Enrique in a simple
Who's Enrique? Who's Enrique? I was born in Toronto, so that's my hometown.
True.
I'm a city boy. Born, raised there.
Yeah.
Born, raised there. Spent my entire life.
Yeah.
Come from a Hispanic background, so my parents are from El Salvador.
Yeah.
So I'm really into stuff like, soccer. Soccer's my main sport.
Hey.
Been playing that since I was a kid. We also, in our culture, we like eating lots of food, especially spicy food.
Yeah.
So a bit about me, I enjoy spicy food.
Yeah.
If anyone ever wants to have a spicy challenge with me,
You'll
I'm
cook
your
that.
guy. Yeah.
Bro, were you there at the Korean night?
No, I was
been there,
working.
huh?
I was
Oh,
working,
I
so
see,
I
I see.
couldn't. Yeah.
True.
But when
I think I could take you though.
okay, yo, you gotta put that to the test.
Yeah, we gotta have this. Yeah, we should do like a video of you guys like eating the
actually
hottest
that.
things. Yeah.
First one to cry.
Yeah.
Loses.
Bruh, no milk.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No milk.
Yeah, no milk. Just water.
Damn.
Water makes it worse.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed going, in Toronto, even though it's a city, I love being in the outdoors. So I always go, on walks in the neighborhoods, by the lake. We have Lake Ontario there.
Yeah.
So going on lake shore, walking around. And I love camping at church.
Let's go.
Pathfinders. Yeah. We went camping every year.
Yeah.
So that would be like the best time for me, just being outdoors with friends.
Yeah.
Playing sports there or hiking or doing a bunch of adventurous stuff. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah.
I'm here at Burman studying religious studies.
Yeah.
Hoping to become a pastor one day, God willing. And then we'll see where he leads after that. But I'm really inclined to just sharing the gospel and doing God's work.
Talking about growing up in Toronto, how I see that you're like president for the Bula
Vice president.
VP this year. Were you president last year?
No.
VP the whole time.
Yeah.
But I talking about El Salvador. Like how much have you been impacted by when you're growing up? How much has that Latino culture affected you? Like how was growing up in Toronto but not losing out all that?
Yeah.
How did it happen?
I would say, first off, thanks to my mom.
Yeah.
Mom, my dad, my grandma. My mom told me growing up, she's like, you're going to learn Spanish first, and at school, they'll teach you English.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good mindset.
Yeah. And honestly, till this day, I'm so grateful to her for teaching me Spanish. Teaching me Spanish because now I see how useful it is. Learning languages really breaks down a barrier.
Yeah,
especially in ministry.
Yeah, and especially in ministry, right?
Yeah.
So being able to learn Spanish, honestly, has connected me with a Spanish group, right? Yeah. And once you hear someone speaking the same language as you, you're like, oh.
For some reason,
Yeah, there's like a connection.
Yeah. I heard actually, people people are more racist towards people with different accents and or other languages than they're with color. There's a study. I don't know.
Oh, dang.
Because these days there are studies against every other study. But there was a study I actually saw that just indicated how even your accent is much more of a reason for people to be distant from you than even color, right? Like sometimes for some reason you meet somebody who speaks your language, in the way you speak it, you feel connected for some reason.
100%.
I wonder how they would make that study though.
That's
right?
true.
Bro, here's the thing. They're like 10-year degrees and master's programs for sociology, right?
Yeah.
What would they be studying? They're
There's almost
studying.
a study for anything.
There's a
right?
study for almost anything, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, going along with that, they taught me at a young age about like where we come from,
Yeah.
our country. It would, you know, dress me up with like the El Salvador soccer shirt.
Yeah.
You know, just feed us Salvadorian food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything
Yeah.
Hispanic, right?
Yeah.
So going into school, I learned English, got to know people. But what really helped me to preserve, I guess, the culture was going to a Spanish church.
Yeah.
When I got there, you know, learned how to read this Bible in Spanish, preach in Spanish.
Yeah.
Heard, you know, Sabbath school, everything in Spanish,
Spanish.
singing in Spanish, hymns.
Yeah.
So that really retained, I think, in my opinion, my Spanish.
Yeah.
Because, of course, at home I would speak it, but at church I would also speak it there.
I see.
And at school I wouldn't speak it so much because it's all English.
True.
But I feel like that really helped me with my Spanish, keeping it, and then also knowing that there's other people kind of like me that are Hispanic, and embracing our culture really
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's also difficulty being like Latino
Yeah.
that's born in Canada, because like there's always that
Barrier.
I don't know what to say, barrier. Yeah. That that you're like too like
Too
whitewashed.
white. Yeah.
But then to the English, you're too Hispanic.
You're not too
right?
You're not
So, like,
Hispanic enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for me, example, growing up, I couldn't roll my R's, right? So for Hispanic, that's like you're whitewashed straight up.
Tough.
And I would go back home and people were like, "Yo, roll your R's for me," and I'd be like, "No, I can't."
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's sad, but like I'm like, dang.
I can't.
And I would work hard, watch YouTube videos and everything, trying to roll my R's. And
Yeah.
eventually I could. So,
Yeah.
but in that sense, like there's certain things like you feel that division.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, my mom really helped me embrace my culture.
True.
Despite that, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, like, because you mentioned preaching in like in Spanish, and for me, like, I've only preached in French, like once, and I'm fluent in French. Like, I have good like.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, like,
this
this
man
was my
got
first
exposed on the choir tour. We went to a
Oh.
choir tour.
No.
Oh my days.
What happened?
We went to his home church or something in Quebec, right?
Nah, it was not home. It was
Oh,
like,
it was but the Quebec City Church. Yeah, his family came out, right? Imagine a song was being narrated because the translation of it before the song began, and lo and behold, the only French Canadian,
I'm not
the
the
pure Quebecois. He was called a. Is that how it's said? Is
So-
it Quebecois?
Yeah, it's Quebecois.
Yeah, Quebecois. But he was. Yeah, you tell the story. Like
So-
I won't through it.
So I'm talking to like Monroe, and I'm like, yo, like, should I do it in French? Like, let me translate my text, because I was already reading a text right before we sing. It's like a introduction to the song, and I was like, oh, I could do it in French if you're interested. And she was like, you know what? No thanks. It's fine. And I was like, all right, bet. And then on the spot, I'm like reading it in English. I don't know if I read it all in English. I think I read it in English, and then she called me out and she was like, oh, you should read it in French. And I was like,
On the spot.
and I had already written it, so there was like some like college vocabulary, you know, some good vernacular. So I'm like thinking in French, and I just like, my brain is like, I haven't spoken like college level French.
Yeah.
You know, I only know how to talk to like my family and like with my friends. So like, so yeah, preaching in French, like for me was really hard, like the first time I did it, because I had never done it. So how was your experience preaching in like Spanish?
I think for me, man, he started as young in the Spanish church.
Yeah.
So I started like my first sermon, I was maybe 10.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
But the thing is, like, I've always been a shy person,
I
like
see.
introverted. So my first sermon wasn't really preaching; it was more like reading.
Yeah.
So I'd be up there, like have the script, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare to look up. I would
yeah.
just keep reading.
Yeah.
So I was so shy.
Yeah.
But the more I exposed myself,
Yeah.
like I even remember a time I told them I don't want to preach anymore.
Yeah.
I don't
Sure.
like it, right?
Yeah.
But then eventually, you know, I just started again. I told them,
Yeah.
okay, I want to preach again.
Yeah.
And I think what really helped me was, I guess, writing it out, practicing it,
Yeah.
and then, in a sense, like speaking it
Yeah.
in your own terms, right?
Yeah.
Because I know I didn't know all the high vocabulary in Spanish. I just spoke it the way I really understood it. Right?
I understood it. Yeah.
So just keeping it to that was, I think, what really helped me.
Yeah.
And then there was always people there helping me out. Right?
Yeah.
So an elder would come to my house and kind of like teach me what to say or how to structure something.
Yeah.
And then my mom would be the one to kind of like correct my Spanish.
Yeah.
If I had a phrase that was wrong.
Yeah.
So,
you preached to your mom before or something like that?
Yeah. She would hear. She would hear.
I did do that for my dad.
Yeah. Bro, I love my mom.
Yeah.
She's helped me out
Enrique's mom.
Mama.
Yeah. Thank you for this one. But how was that time in high school? Once you got started growing, I know you went to a Catholic high school.
Yeah,
am I right?
I went to Catholic education my whole life.
I remember you saying that. So how was high school? How do you describe high school?
High school definitely was different than elementary school.
Yeah,
definitely presented a different set of challenges.
Yeah,
definitely that was a time where I kind of had to find my identity. I think, and I think that's one thing that a lot of teenagers are still trying to find out who they are.
Yeah, high school.
So going into grade 9, what really helped me was my brother was in grade 12. So he was a senior. So he introduced me to everybody.
I see.
Introduced me to the teachers and his friends and everyone else. So that kind of was like, he kind of set a path for me. Yeah. Right. Already. And he told me, join track and field, join cross country. Yeah. He was the one that pushed me to do all these sports. Right? I was just into soccer always, but then he expanded that. And so at the start, high school was good, but once he graduated, it was definitely...
Your brother graduated.
Then I'm like, oh man, I gotta start making friends from my own grade, right?
True.
And so it was definitely a challenge because, especially being SDA into a whole different public system and Catholic, you could sometimes feel very lonely. Yeah. And I know there's definitely times where I did feel lonely. Yeah. Just because I wasn't like really into the conversations people were having. Yeah. It was just I don't know. People saw me that I was like different. Yeah. But like nevertheless, they were still nice to me. Yeah. And, dabbing me up. Yeah. They knew I was pretty good at soccer, so they
you're good. Yeah.
But like when it came to like being very close, there wasn't many, and it was pretty difficult. Yeah. Pretty difficult.
But what about the other aspect of going to an SDA church, hearing all about the Catholic Antichrist thing? Going to Catholic, how was
growing
that?
up as a kid, it's like I was born Catholic, right? Yeah. So like once we started going to the Adventist church, I had to stop.
So you were born Catholic?
Born Catholic. I was baptized.
Yeah,
we even got footage of my baptism. See my little me putting on.
Right. You swim. You swim. I hear you're really good at swimming. Is it true?
Nah. Nah. But yeah.
Hey, but I heard you're really good at swimming. Man.
That's so wrong, bro.
Yeah, no. So, like, once we came to the Adventist church and my mom started learning more about Adventism, I remember she would play on YouTube, like, bunch of, like, Antichrist
Amazing Facts.
Yeah, well, the Amazing Facts and the Star Wars looking thing. But then they would play, like, in the Spanish church. We're super into prophecy, right?
Oh, my.
So, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Like intense.
I relate so much to Enrique because I realized once I came here, it's so different. Yeah. Like, I feel like Adventism mainly started in North America, right? With the movement and spread out, right? Yeah. I feel like the real Adventism is now where it's spread. And okay. Like, I mean, maybe that's the wrong way of describing it. But I feel like our people, let's say, from where I'm from, are more rigid to singing only the hymns that are subscribed by the GC than the church here, right? I'm like, even the people who play this diatonic scale in North America don't care about it anymore. Our people back home, on the prophecy, on the and the I wouldn't say even like teaching, but there's a high level of like some level of hate, right? Saying, oh, the Antichrist, the other church, the going to hell, this, that. The accusations are high level.
Yeah, no, it's pretty intense.
How do you deal with that? Like,
but
because it's
you're
not
a kid. You also think everything is real.
Yeah, I feel like you it's kind of like in theology class that we're learning. You kind of have to find a balance to everything. Yeah. Because if you go too far one way, people will think you're crazy, right? But if you go too far one way, people are going to be like, you don't believe anything. You don't have something solid, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to find a balance between both, right? I know, so like growing up, once I started seeing like these videos, like you just see the Pope and then like with red eyes, I'm like, oh my goodness, man. And I'm going to like a Catholic school, so like growing up as a kid, I was like so scared. I'm like, they can't find out I'm Adventist, or else they're gonna kill me. They're gonna persecute me.
Burn you at the stake,
bro. I was thinking about that when you were talking about high school. I'm like, bro, you'd be in like worship and like you see like maybe the deacon statues, or something. You're like,
no, it was rough. Like growing up as a kid, because every year they give us like a paper where we have to write our name, our last name, where we live. It's kind of like information the school asks every year, and it says your religion. Right? Oh. so I always told my mom, I'm too scared to bring this back, and they find out I'm not Catholic, so we never sent it back for a few years. Until they're like, we haven't been updated with your information. You have to send it. Yeah. So I was so scared. I'm like, Mom, just put it. We're SDA. And then nothing happened. Like,
I don't think they even care.
Yeah, they don't. Like, they really don't.
I think how do I describe it? How big the SDA church is in comparison to how big the Catholic church is and their influence. I don't think they would care as much as we do. Like, as you said, there's valid reasons to why people can make these connections through prophecy. We're not like totally like saying those things are wrong. Those things don't mean anything. But again, as you said, if you take it too far, you end up forgetting the devil, who's the actual evil behind all the things that happen, and focus on other people, other religions, and stuff like that.
No, it was it's, like you said. Like being in a Catholic education, Catholic people are very nice. They're probably one of the kindest people I've ever met. Right? It's just like when you go into more prophecy, it's more the system, what it represents, right? It's not so much the people themselves. Right? So going into high school, definitely starting to be more solid with my Adventist identity. I started being like, how can I represent Jesus in my high school, right? Especially because I'm the only Adventist, right? And this is like a school of maybe 600, 700 students.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like how can I, I'm just one person, but what can I do that can, reflect Jesus, right? So definitely people notice just lifestyle stuff.
Difference,
right? I wouldn't go to parties on Sabbath. My diet was a bit different. My language, the way I spoke, and you swear words or anything. And then my mannerism, how I was, people are like, oh, they notice something different, right? And that just goes to show, like, we honestly, all of us have to be, walking testimonies, right? Walking sermons. Because that honestly can speak louder than just telling people, hey, listen to this or listen to that. If you become what you're preaching, right? It speaks in measures. Right? And even to this day, I have friends from elementary school that text me and they're like, hey, we remember you.
Oh, what? That's
and
awesome.
The funny thing in elementary school, they would call me the Pope.
Pope.
Hey, that's in my mind. I'm like, no.
True. You're like, oh no, not the Pope. But for them, it's the Holy One.
It's the Holy One. So
but for you, it's like, no, not Holy One.
That's why they consider me the Pope, the Holy One, right? So, but in that joking sense, they could see something different, right? And not too long ago, it was actually this summer, I hadn't seen them in like years. And it was mainly because, as we started growing up, people started trying different things, and I just didn't really agree with, being in that environment. I would be in an environment if it was like soccer or something more, general and nothing inclusive. So they messaged me a couple months ago in the summer, and they're like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. I'm like, I haven't seen you guys. We went through elementary school all our years together. and they wanted to hang out. And the crazy thing is that they wanted to hang out in a bar.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, I'm
Bruh.
doing my pastoral internship.
Yeah.
What if a member finds me in the bar?
Yeah, even if your intentions are not different.
Yeah. And so that's something I wrestled with so much. And I kept telling them, hey, why don't we go eat sushi?
So, yeah.
Like,
or like with Ethan, the vegetarian place. I saw
Subway.
pictures of you in the summer with Ethan.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So,
Yo, shout out to his channel.
Yeah.
Ethan.
Oh, Ethan.
Ethan vlogs.
Yeah. Bruh, Ethan.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, they saw like I was in Toronto, and they're like, yo, reaching out. And I told them, let's hang out somewhere else. But they're like, oh, we get discounts at the bar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I understand. But like, and they're like, oh, okay, we understand too. But, you know, we get discounts. So they kept pointing that back. And I'm like, shoot, you know what?
Yeah.
You know, I started praying about it.
Yeah.
I spoke to my pastor. He's like, hey, you have to be careful where you go, you know? But then I really prayed and spoke to my mom too. And, you know, seeing what Jesus did, he went to some, you know,
bad places.
Places that we would be like, why in the world would you be there?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think we also have to see the motivation as to why you're going there, right? If you're going there to have a good time party, then, you know, it's the wrong motivation. But I was just going there to kind of hear them out.
Yeah.
And, you know, intentionally, like, also witness to them.
Yeah.
Because I've known them for so long.
Yeah.
And so I ended up taking the decision to go,
Yeah.
right, to the bar.
How did it go?
Oh my god.
That was the day at the bar. We're gonna
It
name
was
this
downtown
segment.
Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto.
Downtown Toronto.
Nah.
Take us, bro. Take us, bro.
I'm like talking to my mom on the phone. I'm like, yo, mom, pray for me.
It's gotta be
I'm
bad.
going to this place. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
I have an intention to be
Yeah.
here with my friends and also speak to them. You know,
Yeah.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
And so when I get there, I thought they were gonna be on time, but they all came late.
Yeah.
They all came like 40 minutes, half an hour late. And when I saw the first one, I'm like, hey man, I'm like, nice to see you. He's like full beard and
different,
everything. Yeah, it's been like 4 or 5 years I hadn't seen them. And so he's like, oh, what are you up to? And I told him I'm at Alberta studying religious studies. And like, oh, religious studies?
Yeah. We called it.
Yeah. What do you mean?
The Pope.
Yeah.
If you remember.
So that's when I gave them a little perspective as to what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. So kind of shared a little bit to them. And then the next guy came and he's like, hey, Machuca, how are you? And then, you know, same things. And then I'd be telling them, they're like, what are you doing there? You know? And until like about 5 of them came. And that's when we're discussing stuff, just life, how they are, family, school.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know how it got to that discussion. I didn't force anything. It just came to happen.
Yeah.
It was mainly around me going into religious studies.
Yeah.
One of my friends asked me, is all the stuff that we learned in our Catholic school like true, right?
Ooh.
And I'm like, dang, I'm gonna break the ice.
Man.
And I told him, no, not necessarily everything.
Man.
And my friend's like, I knew it, you know. He's like, I knew, like, you know, like religion can't be that superficial. And I'm like, ooh, dang.
Wow.
I didn't say that. That was him. And I'm like, in a sense, like what they were trying to do was good, but we didn't really, you know, go to the word, to the Bible, right? We're just being taught through papers and packages and like things that other people would say, but not so much the Bible itself.
A lot of ritual, just
the traditional
traditional stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, being able to talk to them a little bit about, you know, I told them I don't go to a Catholic school if that's what you guys think.
Yeah.
And they're like, where do you go? I go to an Adventist school.
Oh,
you know? They've never heard of
They don't
Adventist.
even know you.
They've never heard about Protestantism, right?
Oh.
All this stuff. So it was kind of like an icebreaker thing for them, a whole topic, right? And so I sent them a movie. I'm like, go watch Martin Luther's movie. Yeah. You know? Where he posts a thesis and the whole, you know, change from Catholicism, right? Yeah. And my friend went to watch it later on, and he's like, wow, I never thought.
Oh, he actually watched it.
Yeah, he actually watched it. Yeah, he
That's
texted
fire.
me and he's like, "Wow." He's like, "I never knew. I thought Christianity was just Catholics, right?"
Yeah.
So
Wow.
seeing that perspective, yeah, I definitely had that opportunity to speak to them, to kind of like testify what I've been through.
Yeah.
Right? And just give them more light about what the Bible is actually trying to tell us, right? Trying to teach us. It's not just go to church.
Yeah.
Do the ritual stuff, and then you'll be saved.
Yeah.
I told them, salvation comes through faith.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not just doing good things. I'm like giving money to the poor. Visiting people, doing good things won't get you to heaven.
Yeah.
It's believing Jesus died for you and what He's done for you. Right?
Yeah.
And then by love, we're gonna do all those good things.
Yeah.
Right? So,
It
was pretty fruitful.
Yeah, it was pretty fruitful.
The day at the bar.
Yeah, the day at the bar.
But isn't it crazy how we live in a very bubble? We live in a bubble. We actually think, at least me, I used to think a lot of people know about Adventism. We take a lot of the truths we believe to know so for granted that we think everybody should know. This is so basic. Why not?
It's like duh.
Yeah. But a lot of people who are our close friends, like imagine your friends in Toronto, they're not like in a place where the internet's not around. Yeah. There's so much information. They should have known, right? Yeah. Had it not been for people like us, not spreading the word, having that impact that would actually get there. If the truth we actually believe in, and we believe would help other people. But it's crazy. So, like, would you say you were always meant to be a pastor? Because there are all these indications. But did you always see that? Or was there a time in like high school or grade 12 where you decided, okay, I'm going to Alberta, from Toronto, and I'm going to study theology? How did that decision come?
So that was in grade 12. I had nowhere in my mind to become a pastor.
Yeah.
Nowhere. I can assure you that.
Even though everybody's saying you're Pope and you're
even though
preaching.
people said Pope, I'm like, they just see me as different. But and then I think it was at church. They would even say to my brother and I, little pastors. But like, just because we preach, right? But I never really took into consideration until like now. Now that I look back, I'm like, man, those little indicators have kind of been there, right? But it was in my grade 12 year, I was actually pursuing to go into biomedical sciences. I wanted to go into the healthcare system.
That's valid.
Become a doctor. Because it was mainly because of the aspect of helping people and just being there to take care of people. That's something like a part of me. I don't know. I just always feel the need of being there for other people. So, and my mom was really happy that I wanted to pursue that. Because she in El Salvador was into a lot of healthcare stuff, although she never got to do it. She ended up becoming a teacher. So she was happy that I was gonna do it. But then in my grade 12 year, I started overthinking things, and I'm like, Lord, I don't know if this is for me, right? And I started praying. I'm like, Lord, this is what I wanted to do, but I've never really asked, what do you want me to do with my life, right? So I think that's when the changing point happened into becoming a pastor. As soon as I prayed that prayer, I'm like, Lord, let it not be what I want to do, but what you want me to do, with my career. And so I prayed that prayer and then took it to my church and asked people to pray about it. I'm telling you, Hispanics, man, when it comes to church, they're crazy.
They don't mess around.
They don't mess around. Sunday at 6 a.m. they have
prayer
meetings. They call it the hour of power.
The hour of power. Okay.
La hora de poder.
Wow.
The hour of power. And so I don't really wake up that early, but my request was really like pretty desperate because I had to choose universities and do that. So I went and I'm like, I just have a request. I want, the church, if they can pray for for my decision to where to study, right? I'm like, it's, I don't know exactly where I want to go. I have ideas, but I just want to pray that God can help me make that choice, right?
Mm.
And so after that, I remember a sister came up to me and she's like, well, something was impressed in my heart to tell you should go into ministry, right?
Yeah.
And so at first,
Like,
I mean,
oh,
I didn't
stop.
believe it.
Yeah.
I'm being
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
At first, I'm
No.
like, nah.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you, sister. I'm like, nah. I'm being honest. At first, I didn't believe her. I'm like, nah.
Mm.
But as the more I asked people to pray, the similar answers came up. People are like, you should go into ministry, right? Like your character, how you are, kind of, aligns to that, right?
Yeah, minister.
My elders ended up mentioning that. My pastor ended up mentioning that, and several other members. And so that's when I started really thinking about it. I'm like, okay, maybe I should start praying about this.
Yeah.
But then throughout my high school time, I started slacking on my grades.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Right? And I kind of shared this during Wise Week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys were here.
We're there.
Yeah, you guys were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of shared the struggles I had with pornography, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really messed me up.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah.
And so I slacked in my grades, didn't go to class.
Yeah.
And I remember that winter break, my mom's like, come to El Salvador to kind of just de-stress, right?
Mm.
So I did that, and that really helped me.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, man, I have to go back to school. And at that moment, I'm like, I don't want to pursue ministry. I'm going to pursue,
Biology.
biomedical sciences, right?
Oh.
And so
After everyone had impressed.
after that, right, I just started thinking about all the things I was doing wrong. I'm like, nah, I can't,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe
Yeah. And so I continued, studying, doing my homework and all that stuff. But then I fell back into it and felt depressed.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, I had to drop out of my last year of high school.
Yeah.
Because I just wasn't doing well mentally.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom was always there to support me. And that's one thing I'll always appreciate from her.
Yeah.
Because that really, honestly, really gave another perspective of God to me, right? I'm like, if my mom can forgive me, if my mom can love me despite all these things, despite me disappointing her, how much more will God do the same, right? Or if not even more, right?
Yeah.
So her supporting me, the church, supporting as well.
Yeah.
I remember my Sabbath school class, the kids brought me cards to like encourage me. Like all those things, like little things that God really put into my life at the moment, like reminding me of his love. I was just like overwhelmed, you can say, right? And I just, towards the end of the summer, once I was a lot better, I told him in my heart, I'm like, Lord, I want to, serve you as a response of all this.
Yeah, that has happened.
Like I want to share your love to other people.
Yeah.
Like, the stuff that he can do in my life and
the hope that he can give.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I want to share that to other people, right?
Yeah.
And so going into now, I had moved at this point from Toronto to Brampton.
Okay.
Brampton is like
I've heard
the outskirts.
Yeah.
Mini India. That's what it's known.
Mini India. David Tell.
You see the 6 Buzz, man. You see all the car accidents going on.
Nah.
So we ended up moving there, and I went to high school there. So I'd moved from my original high school now to another Catholic high school there. And I started going to school, took the sciences, everything. Like I wanted to still pursue biomedical sciences, but I still had in my mind ministry. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do I know which one, which
Do I
one to
want-
choose,
yeah.
right? And I continued praying, and there's one hymn that honestly became like my prayer every day, and it's all I know. The chorus says, "I'll go where you want me to go, dear Lord, over mountain or plain or sea. I'll say what you want me to say, dear Lord, and I'll be who you want me to be." Right?
Oh.
So that was my prayer at that moment. I'm like, I'm in this moment of confusion, and I'm gonna ask God, I'll go, I'll say, and I'll be who you want me to be, right?
Yeah.
And it came to a moment where I had to make a choice. My advisor says, you have to choose. You can't be between two things. You have to make a choice. And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go by faith, and if the Lord can open doors and make it possible, I'm gonna go to Burman. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I told her, I'm gonna pursue ministry.
Yeah.
And we applied for Burman, got to Burman.
Yeah.
And the church kind of helped me a bit financially
Yeah.
in my start to go to Burman, some members as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's basically how it came to ministry. It wasn't something like I knew
Always
since a kid.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I would have never pictured, especially
Last
because I'm
minute.
really shy,
Mm.
very introverted.
Yeah.
And I would see pastors are very like open, social, you know,
Yeah.
extroverted. But you know, in my personal life, I see where God has been leading me and guiding me and working with me.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking forward to continuing to
On that.
grow in
Mm.
Christ. Yeah.
I have a question for you because like this is coming from a third year to a fourth year.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like I've heard like stories and I've like seen, you know, like the struggle of like being a minister, and it's like it's hard, you know, like some people graduate and like 3 years into their ministry they're already like burnt out and overwhelmed, and like how has your journey been like in terms of catharsis, like releasing your negative emotion and dealing with the overwhelming like duty in a way, because it's a lot of like expectation placed on you, being the mouthpiece of God, like you know, how has it been for you, and how are you dealing with that currently, and how are you getting prepared for full-time ministry?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, man.
My fault.
Yeah, no. It's a good question, because I think, especially I kind of saw a little bit during my pastoral field experience where times it felt like it was just too much, right? And you know, and times even in my spiritual walk, I just feel distant from God. Right? And I think the main thing is. And Auntie Ellen, man. Auntie Ellen.
Hey,
Ellen White, bro.
shout
Shout out to Auntie Ellen. She says it best, you know. Whenever you feel distant from God, run back to him. You know, whenever you feel like he's not listening to you, just go back to him, right? There's one quote where she says, whenever you feel like you've gone so far, run back to where you last saw light.
I see.
Right? And for me, the last time or every time I see light is when I come to God in prayer, right?
I see.
When I come back to him and, you know, basically break my heart to him, like be so vulnerable to tell him exactly everything, you know, from the craziness that's going on to my life, to my struggles, to the doubts I have, to everything. Right? And then just drawing to his word to find answers and to find consolation, to find peace, right? One of my favorite books is the book of Psalms, because it speaks emotions. It resounds emotions, man. And you can see that's why David is one of my favorite characters. He's just so, you can see the emotion he puts into many of the Psalms that he wrote, and in his story as well, right? So I think one key thing is to come to God every time you feel, whether it's lonely or anxious or just confused or even angry or disappointed. I think God wants us to know that he's your guy. He's your guy for all of that. You know, I know often I would go to my friends first and tell them everything. But if you truly go to God first and tell him everything, right, you can find a peace that you won't find anywhere else, right? And dealing with my negative emotions and when I've felt overwhelmed, it's so funny because you feel like you gotta, especially when it comes to pastoral work, you gotta do a bunch of work, do this and that, and during my internship, I remember there would be moments where I would forget my time alone with God, right? And
you're just too drawn.
It's just so much work. But it's funny because we were, for the prayer meeting every Wednesday, we read a book called Secrets of the Vine. And one of the funny things, it's kind of like ironic but paradox, it doesn't make sense, but the more time you spend with God and the less time you spend just doing the work, you actually end up doing the work even better. Right? So like we're so often focused on
the work,
just doing the work, making sure everything's so perfect, and we forget about our time with God.
5 minutes of prayer for a whole day.
Exactly. Right. But if you make intentional your time with God, right, where you tell him everything, he'll equip you with the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit, man, when the Holy Spirit works, he does things that no human can do, right? And so when you go out to work with the Holy Spirit, he does everything that needs to be done.
Yeah.
You do your part, of course, right?
yeah.
But it's a collaboration instead
Yeah.
of a one man work
Yeah.
type of thing.
It is.
So I've definitely noticed when I spend my more time with God
Yeah.
alone,
Yeah.
that everything else seems to be a lot more like the pressure goes down.
Yeah.
It's not like it's easy, but like it's a lot more tolerable.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing it alone.
Yeah. What's your thought on, these days it's said man's mental health, because you're talking about pastors being expected.
Yeah.
You're being held to a standard that's not supposed to be, in my opinion, because everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
You're choosing to be a minister, serve God even with your weaknesses,
Yeah.
right? But how do you feel about the new, let's say, outside that pastoral framework as a guy? How do you feel about expressing yourself when you're going through hard times? Because I find it that whenever guys are having a hard time, it's more of like expressed as a joke or something like that. Yeah, just saying it and stuff like that.
Man up.
Yeah, but like, what's your opinion on like manning up, being like a man? Like now you're becoming an adult, you're supposed to be a pastor, like you're gonna be leading a church. So how do you grow into becoming a full man that people could rely on? What's your opinion on that? Like, and what's the balance between being vulnerable and being strong in confiding in God and staying a bit, having your cards close to your chest, per se?
I think the first example that comes to me is Jesus. He was the man of all men, right? And he wept. Right? The shortest verse of the Bible.
That's
Jesus
mad.
wept.
I didn't expect you to say that.
Jesus wept, right? So he showed his emotions, right? I feel like there is a time and place for everything, right? But you don't have to hide your emotions just to fit a certain image that people are setting, right?
Yeah.
And we see that all across the Bible. I mean, all these famous big known characters, David, all these people crying, ripping up
their clothes,
garments, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. And we're emotional beings. Right? To say that men can't cry or men can't do that is to deny who we are. Right? We're made like that. So I'm definitely not saying like men have to cry or women have to cry every time. But like we're all made, with emotions, right? So whether it be expressing an anger or sadness or joy, whatever, right? Obviously, especially with anger, you gotta, self-control. It's not like you're gonna explode in emotions either, right? But as a man or becoming a man myself, right? There's been moments where I'd be crying, in my room, right? And like I say, drawing all those emotions back to God, there's been times even growing up as a kid where I'd be crying in prayer to the Lord, right? Because of difficult situations, right? So, and I think my mom and grandma always encouraged me, like if I have to cry, cry. Because you're letting out what's so bottled in. You're trying to let that all go out. And it's healthy for you instead of keeping it all in, right? And if you take conflict resolution with Dr. Boyd, it really helps you dealing with conflict, right? And knowing not to keep things in, but to actually have an open conversation about things, right? Because the more you store something up, like the Tower of Babel, man, that thing's gonna fall down. So it's best to lay it out out and just explain, dialogue, converse, and even with emotions, just lay it all out, right? In those certain times.
But in that same vein of what we're discussing here, I brought that up because of what you said when you said whenever you feel so down, Auntie Ellen says, go back to the place you first saw the light, right? Or you last saw the light. And as cliche as it may sound, I just believe that God being your friend, if you get to a stage where in your relationship with God, you're comfortable to be open, as you just said, whenever like you are having a hard time, correct me if I'm wrong, you say that you try to go back to God, pray it out, and pour your heart out, right? I just feel like if we had better developed that habit, we'd be much more safer from other things that comes with opening up to because that's a question I want to ask you, because then who do you open up to? That because I feel like uncontrolled vulnerableness has effects. You know what I mean? Like
negative effects,
especially anger, let's say, aggression and stuff like that, unless it's tempered down, unless it's so what's your opinion on having a good close circle friends of support? How do you, who are your friends? Like, how do you make friends, or like how do you select friends? What makes you resonate with some people?
Okay, that's a good
Pact?
question. Yeah, I know. Definitely having a close group of friends is so crucial.
Yeah.
Because going back to the Bible says it's not good for man to be alone.
Yeah. Bro, I use that in the context of talking to girls.
Yeah, no, but
that's the general.
The general.
Bro.
Yeah.
That's
but
such
like being in company, having those people that you can rely on. The Bible also says, it's better to have two people than one man walk alone, right? Because you have someone that you can kind of lean on when you need it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's so important having people in your life that you can depend on and support. For me, it's my family.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful to my mom. She supports so much from my brother and I.
Yeah.
But I go a lot to her for advice, for help, and then I have a set close friends like Jockton.
Yeah.
Most of them are back in Toronto.
Yeah, they grew up with you.
We all grew up in the same home church.
Yeah.
We've known each other for, like 12, 14 years.
Yeah.
Right? We went through adventures, pathfinders, AY, everything together. Through the thick and thin of our church.
Yeah.
Like through everything. Right? Yeah. And like we've opened up to each other about certain, problems that we have.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, there's certain things that I really appreciate when I open up to my friends.
Yeah.
They're going through things. Yeah. It's down to earth. We know each other. And then there's some things that they may not be the best for it.
Yeah,
right?
I see.
And I kind of have to understand that.
Yeah.
Like, we're humans. We don't understand it completely each other. Right?
Yeah.
But that's where, especially God understands us better than we do. Right?
Yeah.
And
facts.
So having friends, especially close ones, people that you can first off trust, right?
Yeah.
People that won't go out telling everybody your own private stuff, right? Your business. People that genuinely care about you, love you, whether you're in the right or wrong, whether you're doing, whatsoever. They just love you for who you are.
Yeah.
Those are definitely key things I see in friendship.
Yeah.
I appreciated it from, the friends I have.
Yeah.
Like, Jockton, even though we're miles away,
yeah.
right? When we see each other, we know what we've been through, we know, like, for so long, all the things. And even though I've been in rough times, they still support me, right? So it's like not just being your friend when you're, like, in your good, but also in your roughest moments, being there to listen to you, even if it's at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., right?
Yeah.
Having friends like that, it's hard finding friends that are
like that.
Yeah.
But like going back to like the whole Jesus wept situation, like I think it's important to note, because you said like where can you be like really vulnerable? Like, is it good to be like really vulnerable, or like kind of keep it to yourself? And that goes back to the manliness, right?
Yeah.
Like grow up, be a man type of thing. Like I think it's important to note that Jesus was not a crybaby. Like if you look at the real context of Jesus weeping, like it's not at like Lazarus' death. He knows the future. Like he knew Lazarus would die.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note that like he wasn't really crying at Lazarus just dying, because like why would you cry at someone who died and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna resuscitate, like bring him back to life in like 5 minutes. Like it's important to note that like this guy was crying for the unbelief. Like, Jesus, if you had been here a little bit earlier, Lazarus wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that like I don't want to say like gender roles, but I think there is a little bit of gender roles in the Bible. You know, masculine, like you know, like you have the duty to be strong and courageous. And like when you look at someone who's always crying, you know, and like super vulnerable, and you said like everyone is not the right person to like talk to and be like vulnerable to. I think like in the context of Jesus, you have to look that he wasn't a crybaby, and he also like he was very strong.
He had emotions.
He had emotions.
That's the point it proves is he expressed his emotions, whether it be crying or not. But that's also a point I was trying to raise. I feel like what you said, not everybody has to get the same treatment of the emotional experience. Not everybody can carry that. Like I feel like some people can, and it's also good to have guy friends as much as we have like relationships outside with females and stuff like that. I think brotherhood between friends that support you, that like know the struggles and are also followable like you. It's really good to have friends like that, because it's just like, I don't know, there's a bond that you make with your friends that you can't find any other place.
100%. And it's those friends that are honest to you, even whether you want to hear it or not. As hard as it is.
Give it to you.
Friends that really care about you. Right? And the ones that will tell you, hey man, you shouldn't have done that, or hey man, you should, you know, they're giving, of course, their opinion, but it's kind of like seeing things outside of what you see. And that appreciate from friends, you know, when they're honest to you.
It grounds you.
Exactly. Because sometimes we're walking, you know, on our own path, doing whatever, and we may not know we're doing something wrong, but other people may know, and you know, it's hard to receive criticism. Right? No one likes it,
especially at your position now, because you're becoming a pastor. Friends you meet after now are just gonna know the pastor Enrique. You know what I mean? They don't know you as like, hey, just Enrique, a friend, you know? So
I went to the bar.
That bar, downtown Toronto.
Downtown. I won't say which bar.
But that's really cool. But so in this conversation we're having about friends and making friends and all those other things, we talked about your theology experience. How would you describe the time here in Burman?
It's been good. It's been good. I've definitely it's been a learning experience for me. Because it's honestly the first time I'd be away from home and living on my own. Right? So just living in itself, it's a whole learning experience. Like I always tell new people going into Burman or just university that's outside of home, like you really need to take care of yourself, right? Because right now it's not mom or dad washing your dishes or feeding you or telling you eat healthy or read your Bible. It's not all down to you, right? You're responsible for all that. So here at Burman, it's been a wonderful experience. It's a small school. Meeting everyone, just everyone being friendly, kind. And being able to play soccer, which is one of my favorite things. Being able to worship, to meet people from all parts of the world, and to also be able to learn more about theology, about the Bible, the original languages. That to me, the original languages has been always my favorite part.
I remember like we were like sweet mates our first semester, and you had your Greek attached on the wall.
The poster,
I wouldn't go too much into detail of that sweet mate situation because it was mad.
That was
What did I miss out on?
It's better
outside the camera.
It will be for those on Patreon. VIP.
$5 a month.
If you want that hot specialty, you'll get it there. But I remember, and I remember your struggle with the calf food. You used to come back. You always used to take your food to your room though. And I used to just look at you, just walk in, walk out. And I don't think because you were you're vegan or
Yeah,
you're vegan, right? So I remember you had some issues with that because it used to be hard for you to.
It was rough. Like not only was the food not good.
Yeah, life was
like,
rough.
tasty,
Yeah.
but like they didn't have that many vegan options.
Yeah.
And like at the time I was with someone. I had a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
So it was kind of rough. So I would bring my lunch to just talk to her. And spend time there. But that's why.
Vegan,
yeah.
I know about that, but I didn't know your lunch was for that.
Yeah, because like we were 8-hour difference at the time, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so
peak.
That's a whole different story. But
it's good that you mentioned it.
Yeah,
it's good that you mentioned it.
So it was definitely like at the start, like it wasn't like everything was placed there. You kind of have to like, I came to Burman not really knowing anyone.
Yeah.
Other than who was
Leo. Leo and
Barbosa,
and Pastor Alejandro.
Well, he wasn't here. I don't think that year.
Wasn't he here?
Alessandro?
Yeah.
No, he wasn't here. No.
Our freshman?
Yeah. I know. Yeah, it was only Leo Barbosa, and then I met Josiah and Boris.
Oh,
and guys
yeah.
like that online, right? That was my first year.
There's a picture of us the first week of school with Machuca with us, right? And I'm like, each time I go back and see that picture,
Hey,
I have to show you that picture.
You gotta send me that.
I'm like, you know the beach, the handshake.
The handshake.
I don't even. It was because our first week in person in Burman, right?
Handshake.
But I don't even know how you were there, right? I just see you in the picture. Okay, I have to show Enrique. I have to show you.
Wait, so while we're waiting, like I wanted to ask you, like,
look at Enrique, bro.
Never mind. Oh, he's so happy.
Oh,
bro.
wait, what?
I don't look at David, bro.
And I'm not there.
Okay, we're gonna attach the picture. Huh? We're gonna attach the picture.
Hey.
But it's so peak because I'm like, was Enrique there? Because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's because of the sweet mates.
It was our first week. No. I don't remember how. I didn't know half of this people this day. Like
Really?
I just knew David and Ethan because Ethan was my roommate. I didn't know Josiah. I didn't know Enrique. I didn't know David.
Dang, wow.
I didn't know Enrique was my sweet mate until half of the first semester. Because I was so in my room, just walk out, go, come back, you know.
And the studies,
The grind was, bro. I had that mentality, bro. So, good that you mentioned long distance relationships. What do you think about long distance relationships?
Wait, I got a question.
Okay. Before we get in there, that's so peak.
How was the situation of like, I'm going into theology because like theology is kind of weird. It's a weird degree, like the OG like biomed, like education.
Oh yeah.
Those are the OGs. Like those are the ones that make sense. Theology is like it's faith based, right? Religion, like a lot of people are like, what is religion?
When you're too young to nobody like usually.
Especially as a young adult. Like, how was that situation with the person you were with, right? Like, were they accepting? Was it like hard for them to accept that? Like,
oh yeah, I know. Well, with the past people, yeah, I know when they would hear I'm going into ministry, they're like, nah, I can't date you.
Yeah.
Like,
Pastor.
So it's not. It's funny because. It's funny because like in Latin America, when they hear you're a pastor, all the girls run.
That's also what I thought.
Everyone runs away, right?
No, what I thought too was the same because I thought I see pastors getting married to all types of women in every kind of career. She could be a doctor. She could be like I don't see a doctor woman getting married to like let's say a biology degree guy. It's easier for them to get married to a pastor, which is kind of, at least in my eyes, because of my mentality, at least it's, you know what I mean? It's respectable as a pastor. But like, they wouldn't marry like, let's say, I don't know if this is like, how would I describe this? If I'm a fireman, a doctor, I'm pretty sure firemen could make as much or more than let's say pastors would at the beginning. But even if it's not about the money, I don't think a doctor female would find it hard to marry a pastor rather than a fireman. What I mean is a pastor is more, in my at least I thought
Mhm.
they would want to get married to pastors, but I didn't know
Yeah,
you're.
I remember asking some friends
Yeah.
that in my high school.
Would you know?
In my high school,
Yeah.
that weren't Adventists or anything.
Mm.
Oh, I'm going to ministry, becoming a pastor.
Yeah.
You're like a pastor?
Yeah.
Like what? Like people still become pastors nowadays.
Oh my days.
Especially young people,
Yeah.
and they're like, no, don't do that. Go to becoming a doctor, right?
Or business.
Or yeah. So, definitely like, you know, it's not for everyone, and that's something I learned in my internship with my pastor, having conversations, long convos. He's like, you know, to be a pastor's wife, it's a calling, you know.
Yeah, that's a calling in
Nah,
itself. Like,
yeah.
It's a calling. It's not for anyone,
Every woman,
for
yeah.
everyone, right? And it's understandable. You don't want to force someone into something that they may not feel is for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, especially tying back to your long distance thing.
Yeah.
I know with her
Yeah.
at the start it was okay.
Okay,
But
yeah.
then once she started learning a little bit more about what ministry is,
Yeah,
she
pastor.
didn't know she can live up to that, right?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, she was a good person. She was
Yeah.
a good person,
Yeah.
and ended up splitting up.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always that issue if you know I can live up to those expectations. Because, you know, to a certain degree, it's very high expectations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, we just have to draw back that
Mm.
with God, we can do all
Do-
things, right? And it's not
yeah.
so much living up to those certain expectations, just living up to what God wants from you, right?
Yeah.
If you just focus on
Mm.
that, then you don't have to worry about doing all this, doing all that.
Yeah.
Just focus on pleasing God.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Mm.
I have to ask this. This is just an opinion, no disrespect to you, to guys who are getting to being the pastoral ministry, my friends.
Hey.
I have met pastors or theology students who have a very different mindset to what I thought a pastor is or would be like since I came to Burman. Because I grew up in like an Adventist community school where there are theo majors. The theo majors I knew from back home, in comparison to the
Very
lifestyle
different,
of the theo majors, let's say in Canada, is so different. I'd say if based is used, that word, I'd say Enrique is on the other side of what I would describe pastor theologians in Burman to be described as. If there was like a line, you would be on the other side where I would easily relate to your form of what a pastor is like, or what your mindset is towards, okay, if I'm supposed to be a minister, to a certain extent, I'm supposed to, you know, dedicate my life to certain lifestyle. You know what I mean? But I see that most pastors in North America don't subscribe to that, right? I just saw a pastor post something about going to Taylor Swift's concert, right? I don't mind the pastor going to Taylor Swift's concert. To be honest, I don't mind the pastor going to a Taylor Swift concert. But why would the pastor post about it on his social media with like thousands of people watching it? Like, is it something he's supporting? Is he endorsing it? Like, same thing with what Paul said with, hey, if the meat I'm eating is gonna be a block for somebody else, I won't eat the meat. Like, why is it so... Maybe I find it hard to understand. You guys explain to me why pastors have such a varying understanding of what their lifestyle is supposed to be, or what people expect of them in North America.
So explain the
impact of this, the New Age movement, or like whatever the influence outside of the church is, has a very big impact on how pastors think in this day and age. Like, there was a pastor I wouldn't mention that introduced themselves as a cis person. Yeah, but like
introduce them as what, sir?
as themselves as cis person.
Yeah.
I don't. Again, I'm not saying it's even wrong. I'm saying, like, what do pastors? There's not when you say pastor, that word doesn't mean one thing only these days. Why is it? And I'm
I think
I don't.
it goes along with the question, why is there so many denominations today, right?
Yeah.
And it's just we all interpret things differently.
Yeah.
And so I think to do justice to what God really tried to say is by letting Scripture interpret Scripture.
Yeah.
Right. Let the Bible harmonize itself. You know, let's not try to add what we think or what our morals today, because morality has been changing all
Sometimes
across. Right?
yeah.
Humanity
Very
doesn't really know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
If we do know what's right and wrong, it's because of the Bible. Right? If we look at the 10 Commandments, most of our laws kind of resemble what God gave to Moses up in that mountain thousands of years ago, right?
Yeah.
So our morality kind of comes from, really comes from God, right?
Yeah.
But it's been so distorted through the ages that we don't really know what's right and wrong.
Wrong,
So if we let the Bible interpret itself, we really won't fall into that many different interpretations, right? So as soon as we start looking at the Bible in a sense of how
we want to understand
it, then there's trouble, right?
Eisegesis versus exegesis.
There you go. There you go. Right,
the technical
right there.
term.
What is that? Describe it, because not everybody is in theology.
Well, like he said, let Scripture interpret Scripture. Let Bible explain Bible. Right? It's like eisegesis is.
But don't you think that
this guy asked me to explain it, and then he don't even listen.
Okay, I'm gonna give you the opportunity
ahead,
to explain yourself better, because I'm saying it feels like your answer is a bit circular. You're saying let the Bible explain itself. The people already, when the Bible explains itself, people are understanding what the explanation is differently. Like there is no objective truth that's understood objectively. Everybody understands truth with a subjective lens. I'm saying the church is supposed to give you a glass, even if it's not the same lens, a similar lens through which you can interpret the word. Like that's at least my understanding. I'm just saying, why is it that there's so much impact from other movements within the church, and pastors have a very varying understanding of, let's say, stands on music, entertainment. I'm not saying that from a position of being like holy or something. I'm just saying, where does this difference come from? What do you think about it as two guys who are actually going to be pastors? Because I've had conversations with pastors who've told me about this. We talked about the bar, right? A pastor here has told me about drinking and all those things being, it's not that, different. I'm not saying I drink or I don't. It's not even personal. I'm just saying, where are all these things coming from? And is there even a stop to this type of thing? Yeah.
Well, you have to look at it in the way that, like, there's experience. You're built. How you act, your personality, your character is based on every single second that you've lived in the past, right? Because that has built up who you are.
Yeah.
If someone had tons of friends who really struggled with identity, that pastor you're talking about, she is not breaking any laws biblically, like she's just clarifying, and she's reaching out to an audience that's even greater than the congregation of SDA. Ministry doesn't happen only inside the church. You have to be able to reach out to different community. I'm not saying supporting them, what I'm saying sharing with them in the context of their context. That's why a 90-year-old pastor might struggle a little more with youth ministry, right? Because it's this different context. And looking at his story of going to the bar, like, you didn't break any rules of, like, you didn't drink, you didn't change your character, you didn't start swearing, you didn't use vocabulary that was inappropriate, and you didn't act violent. You're still within the. But
Manny, you end up being on a slippery slope.
Of course.
My 50 years ago, this wouldn't be a conversation. In 50 years, of course, this would be a different conversation. You know what I mean? In a clear manner, what I'm trying to say is, of course, there has to be compromise in order to reach other people. But then you have to have an identity from which you're speaking. There has to be a reference point. Like I'm saying, even if, let's say, a pastor likes listening to Jay-Z or something, maybe they grew up in a neighborhood where they listen to Jay-Z. Maybe that type of music doesn't lead them to other sin and other stuff. So it's a normal thing. And I can see how they could justify it. But what I'm saying is, at least that pastor has to admit or to say that maybe this is not the nicest of musics to listen to.
Yes.
Even if because of my sinful personality, rather than trying to justify it the other way and say, yeah, it's a normal thing.
Well, that's eisegesis, right? It's like if I
Yeah.
I find a little a fourth of a verse that says music is good, right? Like, oh, look, you see, Abel, look, music is good. It doesn't specify what kind of music. That's eisegesis. I read the verse. I read the chapter to get the context of the chapter. I read the book to get the context of the chapter, and then I read the author to get the context of the book. That's exegesis.
I see.
Looking at the original, you don't have to look at the original language, but that's just like looking at the culture. What is the setting of what is said? What is this piece of literature? How is it inspired, and what is the context of it being written in? So,
would you say there's some level of an identity crisis, or are we going towards that? Or what would you say is a good solution for that? That's my whole question. I just feel as though there has to be an identity to pastors, or even all of us Adventists, as long as we stand on the stage and say, hey, I am going to be a Seventh-Day Adventist. I am going to do this and that. I'm going to represent Christ in this way, right? We're living testimonies. So what is a living testimony supposed to subscribe to? Like, what do you think are solutions to this identity crisis that's going to come? Because it's happening all around us.
I think it's happening right now. Yeah. Like the only two things that we can really refer to, at least as Adventists, is first off the Bible, right? That's our
the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
The two things that we can refer to back as Adventists, at least to keep our identity, is number one, the Bible above all things. Right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people believe the Bible is actually authoritative, right? Or maybe some people believe it's just the New Testament, not the Old, right? And then some people believe it's just the first 5 books and not anything else, right? And from the very few denominations, we're the only ones that really keep the Sabbath, right? Apart from the Jews, right? I just had a haircut like this week, and I was talking to my barber, and I told him I'm a Seventh-Day Adventist, and he's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "We go to church on Saturdays." He's like, "Saturdays?" He's like, well, "Why Saturday? Never heard of that," right? So just that in itself is, we have an identity based on what Scripture says is true, right? So number one is that, right? Then number two, through spirit of prophecy, we were given a gift of prophecy through Ellen White. Right? She writes certain things, and like Manny said, even her writings need exegesis. You have to see the context of things. You can't just grab a sentence and say it's this, right? But you have to see the whole context of things, right? And we have something in her, in quotations, a more modern description of things, right? Through her, we kind of see things that we've never really seen about the Bible, right? Through her Desire of Ages, that book has made me cry several times, especially the chapter in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? That chapter is wild. I was in tears reading that. And it really makes, draws us back to the Word, right? Which should be number one, right? So I feel like as an Adventist, those two things, in a sense, have been given to us, that gift of prophecy, right? That really makes us stand out from the rest. Because as we know, our mission is to spread the gospel, the word, the everlasting gospel, the three angels' message, right? And to let people know that Jesus is coming soon, right? So if we don't lose those two things, which is, first off, staying to Scripture, what the Bible says. And I say the Bible is, interprets itself because it really does, right? If, for example, someone says we can drink, right? The Bible clearly, outlines certain things about drinking, right? If people say, the Bible basically outlines so many things, right? Now, if we go to the nitpick of the do's and don'ts, then we can fall into a trap like that, right? But the whole principle is there. And that's what we really, really need to strive to follow. And I believe the Holy Spirit guides each person, right? He guides you to, whether this is for you, you'll hear that little voice in your head, right? It'll tell you, you shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't be going there, right? And then it really comes down to us if we want to listen or not, right?
Moving from this.
Wait, I got one more thing. One more thing. So like, and you saying like it's a slippery slope, like of course there's a slippery slope in every situation.
Yeah.
Whether it's like going to the barber, there is a risk of you being converted and you being like him talking you out of SDA. Like if he's talking, oh no, the real like Sabbath is Sunday. Like there's a slippery slope for everything.
Yeah.
So like I really agree with what you're saying. Like as long as you have that personal relationship with God, He's gonna be there with you, and He's gonna make Himself heard.
Yeah.
He's gonna dap you up. He's gonna be like, you know what, like I know like this environment can be kind of scary, but like I'm gonna be there with you, and I'm gonna encourage you. In that situation.
If I can add one more thing, like especially now, with the way we're seeing the world turning, right? It's now more than ever where we have to stand for our principles, for what we believe in, right? Not, what's the word? Not so much like conform, but like bow down the knee, or like for what the world is saying is right? Because we know, not unfortunately, but the world has chosen to not follow what God teaches. Right? We know that what God teaches is right? And it's not anything that has to do with hate or violence, but it's out of love. Right? So it's now more than ever where even if governments or, the world is saying that what you believe in is wrong, the question really comes down to us, you know. Are we going to stick to what God says, or are we going to meet the demands of the people?
Yeah, I think...
Story of Daniel. Bro,
the whole thing I was trying to say is, I feel like as believers, I see this with utmost like humility, because I'm not saying this from a place of living that life that people could look up to and say, hey, look at Abel. He reflects Christ. I'm saying this from a place of, I believe that for people to learn from you in any way, shape, or form, you have to have an identity. And I believe that it's time, when I said slippery slope, I meant you have to have something you base your beliefs in.
Yes.
For us,
100%.
It's the Bibles, right? We have a mission statement. We have what we believe in. And on the rest of the things that are vague, the Holy Spirit reveals the truth to us, right? Because that's why He is here, because Jesus left Him with us. But again, there to certain extent, we fall into giving that pleasure. Like, we're scared of offending people. We're scared of being different. Same thing when you're in the Catholic school. Like, we as people want to be accepted, loved, and we don't want to offend people. We don't want to say, maybe that's wrong, maybe that I don't agree with. Maybe that according to what I believe in, even if I may be weak, I may not live by it, this is supposed to be what it is. I feel like just because we slip down from our the standard shouldn't slip down with us. I think the standard should be set with the Bible, with the Word. And if there's a change to the standard, it should come from the Bible.
That's right.
And from
That's
the Word.
Right. We see that with the rich young fool, whatever the Bible calls it.
Yeah.
Jesus never let down the standard for him.
Yeah.
Even though he was a young man, rich, potential. Right? He said, "This is the standard.
Yeah.
Are you gonna follow it? Right? It really comes down to us. Right?
Yeah.
So going along with that, we often, I've found myself too in certain situations where we try to justify certain things, but that's where we come wrong. We just have to acknowledge, okay, maybe I'm not there yet, but I want to get there, instead of trying to justify.
That's the spirit. Yeah. I find myself there every day, like different things. And I'm all constantly telling myself, hey, don't normalize it to a point where you think it's normal.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
That's where the danger really comes. When you normalize something that's wrong. Yeah. Right?
And of course you're going to find a verse to support it. Changing lanes. I want to talk about some fun stuff. Yeah. In your stay in Burman, we know you play football.
Yes.
How would you describe the Burman football team? How were the past 2 years before the great Pele made his debut yesterday? It's not me. It's Robert. You see how I converted it? but Enrique, how's freshman year? Like, I mean, 2021 because we came in person 2021.
Yeah.
How's last year in short? And what's this year looking like? Huh?
Yeah,
Let's talk about our football team.
definitely when I first came to Burman, the
Yeah.
first thing I did, I remember I met
Find the team.
Tyler Borges.
Oh.
Who hasn't? Just
Nah,
throwing
man.
hoops, and I'm like,
Yeah,
yo,
Tyler
I'm like, hey,
Borges.
man, I
Yeah.
just got to meet him.
Yeah.
And then I was looking for the soccer coach.
Yeah.
Right? And I saw Fergie with Magali.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were both by the stage. And Fergie was like, he had soccer balls with him. I'm like, oh, this is probably the coach.
Yeah.
Right? So I spoke to him like, hey, are you the soccer coach? And he's like, I'm the women's soccer coach.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, do you know when the men's tryouts are going to happen? And he's like, oh, probably next week, most likely around midweek. And I'm like, oh, okay, sounds good. And then after that, I was just wanting to start because I had friends that came to Burman.
Oh, that.
And they're like, oh, you're gonna help the Burman team a lot.
Hey. Yeah.
You know, I had a couple of friends, Diego, who graduated a couple years ago, and then Jose Daniel, he graduated even before.
I see.
And so all these guys hearing that I was gonna come to Burman, they're like, hey, that's
yeah.
good. They need you. So when I went to tryouts, I saw Dr. Ramos and Ralph.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, are you guys like the coaches?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. They're like, what's your name? And I'm like, Enrique.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they're like, you're
Yeah.
the guy. You're the guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean you're the guy? They're
Signing fee.
they're like,
$1,500.
people have been talking about you from the soccer team previous years that you're gonna come and you're gonna help change the program. I'm like, no. I'm like, that's not. I'm like, I just enjoy playing. So when we came to tryouts, I remember the starting lineup was on one side and I was on the other. And when people started seeing me play, they're like, okay, this guy's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And so people started being very aggressive to me. And I'm like,
you get that usually.
Yeah. You could sense it. So
yeah.
as soon as the first tryout happened, the coach told me, you're on the team, right? And so we started practicing. I was getting to know the guys from the team. I saw Daniel there. So Daniel and I, we go way back.
Yeah, Daniel.
We grew up in the same home church. Since
bro.
we were like 6-7 years old. That's when we met. Yeah. So we go way, way back. So seeing him on the team, I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, you're here. And then other guys as well that I got to know through the soccer team. And so going into my first game, I remember I was pretty nervous.
Yeah.
And I was in the starting lineup with all the seniors.
Yeah.
And so being able to play and just be able to have fun.
Yeah.
I love playing soccer. Been playing soccer since I was like 2-3. Like
Yeah.
my earliest memories was with a ball, right? So
did you play competitively like throughout high school and all that, or was it just always like just for fun?
So at the start, I was in a soccer academy.
Oh, okay.
And this guy's gonna love it. I played. My parents put me in an academy from Sporting Lisbon. So Sporting Lisboa. Yeah, that's.
They have a branch in Toronto.
They have a branch in Toronto. So that's where the same team where Ronaldo.
Oh man.
Sporting. Yeah. So
denying.
I even have a picture of when I
the green you're wearing, the white. Oh man. Okay.
So my brother was in it. I was in it. My cousins. We were all in that academy. And as we were going deeper into it, that's when we found the Adventist Church. Right? So we had to stop going to soccer academy because it was on Saturdays, and we started going to church, right? But then even as a kid, I had my friend who played in some U11 team offered me to play with them because he saw like in elementary school. It was all fun. I would play in recess like every day, right? And he's like, come join our team. You know, we need players. You're a really good player. Yeah. And so the thing is, it was on Sabbath, right? And at the time I was in Adventures. And I remember I was maybe 8 or 9, 10, around that age, pretty young. Yeah. And my mom heard about it and she's like, you're going to have to choose, right? I'm not going to choose for you. She said, you're going to have to choose if you want soccer or if you want to go to church, be with all your friends, be with us on Saturday. But you can't do both, right? So in my mind, I'm like, man, you know, as a kid, I'm like, I'm doing soccer.
So,
So I told my mom, I'm doing soccer.
Yeah.
My dad was like low-key happy.
Yeah.
Because he was in Adventist at the time. So he's like, oh, soccer.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So, but when the day came when I was going to play my first game, like even
You
as a
chickened
kid, like consciously, like it kept hitting me.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw my mom and my brother and grandma
Go to
leave
church.
to go to church, and I'm just in the couch waiting for my friend to pick me up for soccer, I'm like, oh man, am I doing what's right?
Yeah.
And my dad saw how stressed I was, right? And he told me, and these were the words that really relieved me. He's like, you know, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as he said that, I'm like, no, I don't want to play soccer. I want to go to church, right? And so my friend, he lived maybe a block away from me, right? So it wasn't that far.
Yeah.
So when he pulled up, his dad was the coach, and he's like, hey, tell Enrique to come out. My dad's like, no, he's not going anymore. And he's like, okay, that's fine. And then he left.
Yo, that's goat. That's goat.
Yeah.
Like,
So
behavior.
when I saw that, I'm like, dang. I'm like, okay. And from there, you know, church has always been before soccer, right? And so yeah, since a young age, I've always played soccer. I've enjoyed it. I would watch guys like Ronaldinho, Messi. After my first love was Ronaldinho, but once he left Barcelona, it was Messi. And then just watching how he plays.
Would you say your dad was a Barca fan?
Yeah, he was a Barca fan. Yeah. So seeing that, and then getting the shirts, and then, you know, just watching lots of soccer, and then trying to do what those guys do on TV in recess. And then after and then after school, like I took it to the next level. I'd be like on my own, just passing, and then, you know, we had fences, so with posts. Yeah. So I would aim for like the corners, do all that stuff. Spend hours doing that because I just enjoyed it, right? And so as a kid, it was like that all elementary school. There wasn't one time that I did not play soccer. It was like all 8-10 years. That was my academy, the recess field. Yeah. And so every year, you know, I would try out in the soccer team and I would make it, right? Yeah. There hasn't been one year that I've been cut off, right? And it's all because I would say like the passion I had for it. You know, I really loved it and put time and effort, and something like even when I was sad, I would just go play soccer. Right? Even when I was rough, I just take my ball from home, go all the way to the schoolyard and just kick the ball around. And ended up playing in high school as well. You know, even with guys that were in actual rep teams. I never played rep because of Sabbath and the expense. I've had offers through elementary school, even in high school, to play with academies and teams, but because of the Sabbath, I couldn't. And being a soccer player was a dream for me as a kid growing up. But I figured like it would never work, unfortunately. Right? But being able to just enjoy the sport, play, have fun, make my team, you know, join the soccer team for the school, and win stuff has always been a big thing for me.
In a minute, sell this to us, to Manny and me. Why is Barcelona the greatest team on earth?
Bro, you're not
football
selling
team
to me. Sell it to him.
Because both of us know nothing. That's why he's selling it to us.
No, nothing. This guy's a Man U fan. You can see him there.
Okay. Here's the thing. The whole point is we're acting as if we know nothing, and like because he loves Barca. His dad is Barca fan. He grew up Barca fan. Tell us about why you love Barca.
I think Barcelona changed the game of football.
Visionaries.
It literally did. Nobody could stop the team. They had to find different ways specifically to stop that one team. Yeah. Because they never seen
2009, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. Those 4 years.
There is no team that could stand against Barcelona. Barcelona was the first team to win every trophy in a calendar year. That's when Messi broke records, scoring 91 goals in a year. Yeah. For us, a guy like Holland who scored 53 goals in a year was great. Messi scored 91. That's almost double of what he did. Yeah. So seeing a team like that was just the team that everyone feared. Yeah. Everyone had to find a strategy to beat this. Yeah. And going towards after Barcelona lost their golden era. Yeah. You saw like football changed into a more faster paced athleticism, stronger.
Yeah.
To stop those short technical guys that can just move the ball left and right.
Xavi, Messi.
So definitely like Barcelona changed the world of football in my opinion, and we see it, globally. You know, you see fans from like everywhere in Africa, South America, Asia, Europe, even America, Ethiopia. Yeah. Barcelona is big. Is not only a team, but it's a like business logo. Like you see the logo of Barcelona, exactly Messi comes up. Yeah. The great team Ronaldinho. Yeah. The blue and red. Yeah. Those two colors. Yeah. It's like a whole brand in itself. Yeah. Right. So it changed football in my opinion.
Yeah. I think if prime oh yes, of course, Barca. I mean, for me, one of the first Champions League match I watched was the final against City versus not City, United versus Chelsea. That one we won. The year after, these are the glory days of Man U. We got beat in a span of 3 years on 2 Champions League finals by Barca, and I watched both of them. So like I'm so bitter against Barca. I'm like, but the truth cannot be denied, as Enrique said.
The statistics
Barca
are real.
No, the game by itself, as he said. Even City tries to replicate it, but something about the City team is plastic for me. But Barca, isn't it like, I don't know. I feel like maybe Barca was the first team to do that. Yeah. It was just impossible for like, I don't know, 3 minutes the ball would be in just them playing it, right? So changing the game of football. I see why you could be a Barca fan. Like Barca is not the team you can be ashamed by being a fan of. Yeah. And I think the glory days for Barca and also Man U, my team, were in the past history, and Barca is rebuilding their stadium, getting back to the glory days, I guess. Yeah. I hope Man U gets back there too. Me and Enrique have this streak-like thing where me and Enrique, whenever we chat on Instagram, we don't chat about personal things. We don't talk about usual things. We only talk about Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi.
Goats.
And Messi.
Wait, so I got a question. Yeah. You love football, you know what I'm saying? And the very controversial question of today, do you play on the Sabbath after going to church?
Like during Sabbath hours?
Yeah.
Or, no, I don't.
Hey, commitment. We love that.
Yeah. I mean, if I was like allowed to, I'd be playing soccer right now. Yeah. I wouldn't be here at Burman, right? So, like those hours, I think, are specifically dedicated to God and worship. Set apart, exactly. Holy. Why would I could play soccer 6 times a week, right? I don't have to play on the Lord's Day, right?
And especially in the Latino community, like football is like in whatever like social gathering, there'll always be kids playing football, right? Always playing soccer, right? Like you can even go like to a funeral, right? Yeah. And you'll have kids just like after this, like when the food is out, they'll just play, right? Yeah, it's just kicking anything, right? Hey. So for us Latinos is like, at least for my family and for my surrounding, it was always like a golden rule where like football, as a kid, is like, no, you don't have the games or you don't have anything until the Sabbath hours are done. So if it wasn't football, if it was just, can I just go watch the TV or like play video games? It's like, it was really set apart to like just fully commit to God, which I think, just with the football thing, it's like, it has to be something set apart, which I really respect.
I could say with confidence that even if the African teams are not the highest like as national teams, the passion for football back in Africa, back in Ethiopia, is so big. I could trace it back to corruption and all these things, why the national teams are not big or something like that. But I just know growing up, we'd be playing, our ball would be destroyed by a thorn. And my brother would literally make a ball from socks. He would take his socks. We'd bring plastic and stuff like that. We'd bring in other socks. We'd make it. He would just make it round and sew it, right? Yeah. And it would be a ball we'd play. And no thorn would destroy that ball, right? Bro, I grew up playing on like socks football, right? Because any other sport needs a lot of accessories. Yeah. Football just needs
something that
some ball,
rolls.
and you just put like rocks, and you're just playing, right?
Going with that, like hockey, like the origin of hockey
Yeah.
came from playing with, like, especially in Quebec, it came from horse poop. Did you know that?
Wow.
So in the winter,
Oh,
you
so-
go on ice. You bring your horse poop, which is deemed to be cleaner than most animal poop. By the way, fun fact: it would freeze. It would freeze. It'd be like a puck.
Wow.
So you just-
wow.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did
yeah.
not know
This for you,
that.
Leo.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Everything
You
is.
get a stick, a branch, and horse manure.
You play with it.
Like each
Yeah.
other.
Yo, there's a lot here.
Why would you be sliding?
But that's nice though. Like the fact that like the sport is like accessible to all.
Yeah,
No,
it is. It is
Well, now it's becoming a little bit
hard.
harder, but-
Yeah. So
Yeah.
final about talking about football though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the hardest question you've ever been asked.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
Why is Cristiano Ronaldo
Of course.
the greatest? I'm not. If Messi was not around,
Oh.
just so that you don't feel like you have to bring, like, or like, because everybody has a different. This will go on
This
for
guy's
10
gonna
hours.
hate- this guy's gonna hate me out there.
Okay, I'd rather frame it like this.
Mm.
I would say, what are the good things you admire about Cristiano Ronaldo?
That's a better question.
Okay, continue.
Number one is his hard work. I don't think there's an athlete in all sports that has worked as hard as Ronaldo. I don't think there's one I can think of right now. His work ethic is insane. The way he changed his diet
Yeah.
to be at the level he's at, and to still perform even though he's almost in his 40s
Yeah.
at a top level. It's crazy.
Mad.
It's just unfortunate that he went to Saudi Arabia, right? Because these are guys we grew up watching and seeing them go to like leagues that there's not really competition at all,
as much.
right?
Mm.
There's
Yeah.
maybe in certain stadiums just 600 people watching in
Mm.
a stadium that can fill thousands. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not like competitive soccer as Europe would be. So
Mm.
seeing like these guys like Messi, Ronaldo, and other guys like leaving like the
Mm.
big leagues is
Mm.
kind of sad because like
Neymar.
I would
Benzema.
still want to see them compete even
Yeah.
at this age,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of nice you can still see them in the international level
Yeah.
to compete because
Yeah.
honestly, I think that's the most competitive competition is national sport more than club, in my opinion. Because seeing you're playing with people that are from your country,
Yeah.
you can't buy a player from like Spain or Portugal to
Yeah.
come play for Argentina. You're playing, and you're not only playing with those guys, but you're representing a nation.
A nation.
So if you lose, your nation is gonna be disappointed with you, right?
Be,
So there's so much pressure, and that's why in the World Cup you just see guys are literally giving everything they can on the field to kind of bring like a national pride type of thing. So-
it was such a the word. Okay, yeah, let's
Yeah,
move on to
so-
the World Cup.
so like what I'm saying is
Yeah.
like I admire his work ethic. I just wish that he would still be in Europe
Yeah,
playing. So, but I think that's one key thing I admire from Ronaldo is his hard work ethic. Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah.
Can you describe for us the day the finals for the World Cup were this past year? How did that day go? Like, tell me how from the start of the game, how your day was.
Dang, so it actually starts even before that because I had
Yeah.
a plane ticket to go watch it back home with my family.
Yeah.
But a whole blizzard happened and my flight got canceled.
Yeah.
So I was in Calgary,
Yeah.
waiting to board my plane, and they're
Yeah.
like, your plane is canceled. It's
Yeah.
going to be moved to, I think it was like 10 a.m. or 8 a.m. when
Yeah.
the final was happening.
Oh.
And I'm like, there's no way I'm missing this. I'm
Yeah.
like, you guys are changing this flight to like 4 or 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we'll do that. And they changed it. And so I was in Calgary, and then I believe Moy was still here around because most of the people ended up
Gone.
leaving.
Yeah.
So Moy and Jolie contacted me because they found out I didn't fly.
Yeah.
And I was going to watch it with some people in Calgary, but they're like, oh, come watch it with us. There's a group of students still here. Because the whole World Cup, I watched it with like people here
Here,
at Burman.
yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice to just finish it off like that.
Yeah.
So they came during the blizzard to pick me up in Calgary and brought me to Lacombe
Yeah.
to
Go
be able to
behavior.
watch it.
Yeah.
So while we were, we ended up, I think, playing FIFA like a few hours before the final was actually happening.
Did you play France versus Argentina?
No. I think it was like club Barcelona against Man U or something. And so we know the score. It was like I think slap more like 5-0 or something.
Last year we kicked you guys out though.
That was different circumstances. Anyway, but when the final started, we were watching, and Argentina just dominated the first half. It looked like France
first 60 minutes or something.
It looked like France wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
And like Argentina just played their game.
Yeah.
And like the first goal when it came, I was just jumping of joy. That was a beautiful play that they did 1-2, 2, and then around. Crazy. And then Di Maria's celebration. Oh man, it gives me goosebumps. Di
Maria, I remember that from like 2013-14 season where
with
Madrid, he used to hit it, bro. Getting cooking Barca and Messi.
Yeah, he never cooked Barca. I don't know what this guy's saying. He never cooked Barca. I can tell you that. But like, just seeing Di Maria score that goal, I was so happy. And then going into the half, I think it was 1-0, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then starting the second half.
The subs from France.
Yeah.
They took out all the entitled guys.
In the first half, actually, they took off Giroud, Dembele. Yeah. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So
Camavinga and all. Kulumwani.
But when I think the whole game changed was when Koeman got subbed in like minute 70.
Yeah.
And that kind of awoke France.
Was it Thuram who got it?
Manny and I think
Thuram, Marcus Thuram.
I forget who came in, but I know Koeman was one of them that came on. And I don't know if Argentina was up 2-0 at the time. I think because of the penalty as well, right? Yeah. And yeah. So seeing that was 2-0 and still one-sided, I'm like, man, this game is so boring.
Yeah.
Like I told the people I was watching, I'm like, I expected more action.
Yeah.
Like people are gonna say this was rigged for Argentina.
Later regret wanting more action.
I'm like, yeah. So in my mind, I'm saying this. I told even more. I'm like, bro, this game looks like people are gonna say Argentina was rigged to win this because France didn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on. I'm like, I hope France can at least give a little bit more action, right? I think it was like 2-3 minutes later, Mbappe scores, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And then as soon as they start the kickoff, like I think it was like 40 seconds later, he does that crazy volley, and I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, there's no way. I should have kept my words to myself. I should have not said anything. Yeah. I'm like, what? And as soon as that happened, it just threw flashbacks of 2014, Copa America, of Argentina losing to all these finals. I'm like, bro, there's no way. This is Messi's last chance to actually win. I'm like, there's no way he's going to lose to Mbappe. And so when extra time came in, I think that was the pinnacle of like emotions.
Yeah. Oh man.
I think like when Argentina scored and Messi scored like right past the line, I'm like celebrating like crazy. And then when the penalty happened for Mbappe, I'm like, no way. So like just emotions were going up and down. And then when France had that one chance, one-on-one. And I honestly thought that was a goal. I'm like, it's over. This guy's open.
He could have chipped it.
I'm like, there's no way. And he decides to drill it, but that split save, oh my gosh, man. I was so hyped.
That was the save of the whole like World Cup.
Yeah.
The best save.
That was a save of Messi's legacy, I would say.
It did save Messi's legacy.
That saved
also his morale to stay in the World Cup, to come back to Argentina. I think that would have like totally just ended it, like it did in 2014.
Yeah, and that save, and then the fact that they came back, Argentina after that play did a counterattack.
Yeah.
And then I think it was what's his name? The Inter Milan player?
Oh,
Lautaro. Yeah, he had a header but he missed. I'm like, oh man, just so much emotion. So much was going on. Like I can't imagine the people that were playing.
Was cinema, bro.
And the people watching. Yeah, it was soccer at its peak in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you see two teams just going at it. One team trying to repeat, win two in a row, Cups, and one team that's fighting for one man to win, right? And then the penalties. That was That was wild. During all this time, I had a flight to catch, right? So I think it was at the end of the second half, we had to put from the TV, we had to transfer it to the phone, right? Because we were on our way to the airport.
Oh.
So I had to put my phone to watch the live stream, and we're rushing to the airport after the snowstorm. So we're trying to be careful with the roads, and we're watching the final, right? The craziness going on. But I think we stopped at a Starbucks to see the penalty shootout. Yeah. And Jolie was driving us. Jolie didn't really understand what was going on. She just saw
she was coming to
crazy.
She was coming to every World Cup game.
Yeah, she was coming to every World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she kind of had an idea, but when she saw Moy and I go crazy,
you guys were like,
she's like, these guys are crazy.
It was probably that was the entertainment, bro.
Yeah, I think so. And to see like when Messi scored his penalty, and then Diwu to stop, like, oh my gosh, man, that's wild.
It's really hard to replicate that emotional state.
Yeah.
Bro. Yeah. Unless, like, I don't know, for guys, bro, we wait 4 years for the, a moment like this. The
4 years to see it. And when it comes, man, it's just a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
Like, you just feel, the atmosphere is different. It's World Cup time,
Yeah. Oh man, the whole month.
I heard about that.
In choir, we used to
as well. Yeah.
Bruh, choir used to be like live streaming World Cup games. So I just the tenor person would be holding it from the back. All the bases would be watching.
And honestly, I think it was a really great experience. Everyone on
in
campus,
university,
it brought people together to watch it.
Yeah,
and especially when Canada played.
Yeah,
you just see a bunch of people with red flags
at
the calf watching the finals.
Wow.
Just let's hopefully Canada does better next World Cup.
Me growing up with like, bro, like his like parents, and like his whole family, it was so hilarious when it was World Cup time. Like they would, they would buy like a satellite. Like,
dang!
Because they didn't have TV, so they would just buy a satellite and then return it like right after
the World Cup.
I would pull up, and I remember like one time he was out, and it was like your mom was like, "It's World Cup time," and I remember we went to Rock Cafe in it's kind of like a bar.
Like a pub. So sports bar. Yeah.
Restaurant section and
the bar section.
And like that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole family.
And me, bro. I was part of the family.
Yeah.
And I did not understand what was happening. Honestly, I was just like there to cheer people on. I was like, "Hey, let's go! They're happy. They're sad. Oh, like I'm gonna cry."
So, Enrique, what does the future hold? Like, what are the things you're thinking about now? You're gonna graduate hopefully this year.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know.
That's a goal. You never know. You never know. That's right.
And it's not. It's really hard to also judge if anybody like comes back to university. I try to be, because I never know. I may have to do a year more, 2 years more. Not at this moment, but you never know what people are going through. So we never know. Like, but hopefully you're graduating this year. So what are your plans after graduation?
As of right now, it's pretty unclear.
Yeah.
It's not really up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends if I get an offer from a conference, right, to work.
Yeah.
But I'm really inclined into just getting into ministry.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, right? And I've been really inclined into doing mission work. That's one of my passions. Just being able to serve, and then after serving, being able to share the gospel, right? So that's one of the things I really want to do with my life is get involved in mission work.
Yeah.
I don't know when that will happen. I'm just trying my best to follow God's plan, follow His leading, because He has a timeline for things to happen, right?
Yeah.
There's things I still need to work on myself.
Yeah.
A lot of things. And so through different experiences, those are opportunities for me to grow, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be being here at Burman or maybe not even having a calling, right?
Yeah.
Those are experiences that God wants to shape us into something, right?
True.
So I'm just focused on following what He has in store for me, right? I don't want to pinpoint a plan,
Yeah.
right? like I do in a sense have one. Like I want to eventually get my master's, do those things, right? But I'm not so focused onto it. I just want to take one step at a time.
And trust God's plan for you.
So I reinforce this every podcast episode because it's like I'm trying to remember, and yes, the platform. So it's like I'm trying to reinforce it so that we don't forget and that we always have the same vision. Yeah. Right. So like this podcast's purpose is to educate and look at other people's experiences so that we can share it and shine wisdom upon other people who might not have the opportunity of mentorship or things alike, right? So we provide a platform for people to share their experiences and what they've gone through and how their life has been affected by certain situations and what they've learned, right? And like from those experiences and whatnot. So we want to ask you and give you an opportunity to share what would be your best advice to someone watching this right now.
My best advice?
Preach it,
definitely have to think my best advice. Wow.
Just maybe
for someone watching this podcast, I would say to commit everything to the Lord. You know that verse that says commit all your plans to the Lord and he will establish your way, right? Yeah. I think that's the best advice, whether it be school, whether it be relationships, whether it be life, whether it be anything. Yeah. If you just commit it to the Lord, bring it to him and say, Lord, this is what's on my table. Yeah. If there's something you want to eliminate or something you want to fix or change or just help me discern that, right? Yeah. I think that's the biggest advice I can give to people, even through studying, exams, papers, assignments. Just commit anything, everything, because that's what God wants. He wants you to learn to trust him. So if you commit everything, your interviews, your problems, your struggles, even sin, right? If you just communicate everything to God, he will find a way to establish your path, right? Whether it be, like literally anything. If you're struggling with something, right? He will find a way to help you, maybe guide you to people, maybe guide you to resources, maybe guide you to watch certain things, right? But no matter what, all that comes with a choice, and that really comes down to us. So my advice is to choose to commit your plan to God. It's an active choice. You can't just let it happen, by itself automatically. It's an active choice. So choose to do that.
Yeah. My favorite verse is from Proverbs 19:21. Similar verse where it says, "Many are the plans of man, but God's purpose, that is what actually happens." The Amharic, my language, the language I speak, I think says it way perfectly. I don't know or I relate to it, much more resonate to it, where it says, በሰው ልብ ብዙ ሐሳብ አለ ግን የእግዚአብሔር ምክር እሱ ይጸናል, which is hallelujah.
That was the best translation. I relate
basically to that. God's purpose will happen, and it will happen like a rock. Like a rock is unchanged. It will like be like a cornerstone, like it will be as strong as a cornerstone. When it happens, it's unmovable. His purpose is unmovable. It will happen for so I really love that. What are 3 things you're grateful for? That's one of the
I always forget that one.
3 things I'm grateful for?
Really grateful for.
Dang.
No family, no friends.
No family,
no
friends.
No dog.
No, it's just joking. Anything you're genuine.
One thing I'm always grateful for, and every time I pray I express it, is life. Life gives us so much opportunities. If we had no life, we wouldn't do anything, There's nothing you can do. We wouldn't be having this if we didn't have life. Right?
We'd be so dead.
We'd be so dead, literally. So, but like just life in itself and that coming from God is something to be grateful for. I think it's David that says, allow me to praise you now that I'm alive, because when I'm dead, I won't be able to praise you, right? So, life in itself is something to be grateful for. So I'm grateful for that. Number 2, something else I'm grateful for, I guess, the opportunity to be in church and faith and just having that, because not everyone is born into a belief, like believing in God, and just having truth with us. I'm grateful for that, because looking back in my life with everything I've gone through, experiences, if I didn't know that there was a God, or if I didn't have that hope or someone to lean to, I'd be on my own with all that.
True.
And I'd be in a whole different place than what I am today. Right? Establishing what's right, what's wrong, all those things. So just being able, I guess that I'm just grateful that my parents brought me to church and taught me those things. And having truth in itself is something I'm super grateful for, because it's something that sometimes we overlook. You know, when we don't really, it's always been there, so we always have it, but some people don't have it, right? And they go through life in a whole different circle, right? So that would be another thing. And number 3, grateful. Dang.
You can say anything you generally want. He's just joking.
I would say it has to be my mom. 100% my mom.
You mentioned.
Driving back to that lady, man. Full of wisdom. She's taught me, supported me, gone to my soccer games, gone to everything. Even though she would always get scared when we would play soccer. Because of the injuries. She always came to my track meets, soccer games, cross country, ever since I was a kid, to, my last one in high school. And even at Burman here on the live streams, she would be watching back home and showing her sisters, Enrique's playing tonight, watching on the live stream, the futsal games and stuff. So she's been my number 1 fan. And she's taught me so much, given me advice. We've had our conflicts, of course, disagreements. But despite all that, she still shows love. And I have so much respect for her. So definitely my mom is someone I'll always be grateful for.
Well, I feel like we're just hitting what is it called? The iceberg at the top.
We're just the tip of the iceberg.
This is the tip of the iceberg with you. Even if we've talked for almost 2 hours now, it has been I feel like we could have talked for even 2 more hours, because there's so much more we could have talked about. But we're so happy you joined us today.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Hope to see you graduate and meet you back again.
And great pastor.
God willing.
And final word, what's the goal this year as the captain of the football team?
Oh man, I mean, you saw last game. It's crazy. If you guys didn't come, you guys missed out. You gotta be there next game. But the goal, honestly, and this is one thing, I'm glad you brought it up, that I don't just want to establish on the soccer team. It's just honestly a concept that anyone can establish. Whatever you're good at, use it to your advantage, and show whatever you're good at, find a way to glorify God through that, right? Something I always ask myself was, Lord, I'm pretty good at soccer, but what's the point of soccer? It's not really for ministry, how's that going to help? But I've seen through soccer, it brings so much people together. Right?
The brotherhood.
Exactly. And it's funny, my internship, it was the first time I heard about something called soccer evangelism. And it was a soccer camp that the church would run for kids from 4 to 15, 16. And they put me as the CEO of that, and running all the programs and coaching. And the amount of kids that got to find the church through that soccer program, they programmed it in such a way that the soccer camp would end right before VBS, right? So the kids, although they made friends in soccer, they're like, oh no, it's the end. We're like, no, it's not the end. You got VBS, and then we got Ventures, Pathfinders, right? So we got all these things where you can still be with your friends and also learn about God, right? So it was almost like a bridge point for us to kind of connect with them, with the community, and also introduce them to the church. And so, when I was the train conductor for VBS, telling the stories. And I saw a kid from soccer that not from the church.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you doing here, coach?
Wow.
So seeing that bond was something special. And
Nice.
and it's something I encourage is the principle. Like whatever you're good at, find a way that you can, glorify God through that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's my plan with the soccer team this year.
Yeah.
Not just play soccer, have fun.
Yeah.
But grow a bond with each other.
Yeah.
We're doing devotionals, show God through that. And also, be a light to the league, right? About who God is, right? And represent him. And as soccer, man,
That's so true.
we hope to win.
That's so true. Yes,
we
we
hope
want
to win. That's the goal. That's the goal.
I want to say I really like how you lead in the soccer team. I just go to the soccer team, I'm a big fan of the soccer team.
Hey, you're part of it, man.
No, I'm part of it.
You're part of it, bro.
I'm so happy because
family.
at least for once I could say that, I was in the Burman soccer team. It was so fun. I'm happy I joined before you leave Burman because whenever we're in the soccer game, you're leading by example. And even yesterday, there were incidents where you were really challenged in the game. And I could see that you were not reacting in a way like I would just be mad and reacting, right? And I was just like in myself thinking, I should be calm, even if this happened, would I, because it was a serious tackle or something like that made you fall,
Yeah.
But you setting that tone will help the others follow, just like I made note of that when I saw that, right?
Life
and
evangelism.
even when we're training, I really do admire your leadership in the football team.
Appreciate
And
that,
I
bro.
think I think our Burman team will have to go to Latin America or like Africa or somewhere to I don't know if you can be replaced, but I hope all of us enjoy your stay here while you're here.
Appreciate
And
it, man.
you have a very great year.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you guys do here. I think giving a voice to a lot of people, staff, faculty, students as well. It's a good platform to be able to have genuine conversations, right? So I appreciate what you guys are doing, where you guys are, and look forward to the future that you guys do here. And as you guys are all in your third year, right?
Yeah.
Third year?
Yeah.
Second,
We're
third,
year.
second, third.
Third.
Yeah.
This man is 3.5. Yeah.
Almost 4.
Okay.
I'm just 3.
Yeah, me and Manny are.
Yeah, keep doing what you guys are doing, man. Keep doing what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
You guys are making Burman, really like a better place, bringing people together and making it a safe place.
Thank you, Enrique.
Yes.
Well, guys, thank you for watching, listening,
Thanks.
and see you next week.
Yo, you gotta do the thing. It's on
Yeah.
there.
Where is it?
It's on there. Yeah, you gotta do the thing.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a routine we got.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how we do.
Yeah, that was really good actually.
Thanks, guys.
An hour 30. No, 2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah.